we can start the session. So we will start off with the invocation. So just take your palms in Anjali Mudra. Slowly close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Deep breath. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalinanatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Right, so good evening everyone. So I'll keep you all on mute and right. So just to give you a brief of what we did last week. So we talked about who is Patanjali, and also we talked about the areas that he has mastered about. So I asked this question on the group, what are the areas that Patanjali has mastered about? So number one is grammar, right? So some of you have answered body, mind and spirit. So that is the yoga part of it, right? But Patanjali as a Muni, as a Rishi, as a sage of the sage, highest sage of the sages, he has mastered three things mainly. He has purified the body with Ayurveda. He has purified the words, right? What you talk with grammar, and now yoga, right? So he has purified the chitta with yoga, right? So we talked about, so we are not very sure about when he was born, what was his time and all, but it is, it's okay. Not knowing that is fine, right? So, but still, the teaching is extremely important. And then we talked about what is a sutra, why we call it as a sutra. With the minimum number of words, he has given the maximum meaning to it. So that's why he is a great grammarian. A great grammarian who has mastered yoga is giving you the sutras in such a way with the minimum number of words but the maximum meaning, right? So that's why Patanjali is extremely, his work is very significant. And when it comes to yoga, we also talked about this is one of the basic texts that we all should know, right? Otherwise, Hatha Yoga will become an exercise, Pranayama will become an exercise, it will just become like a routine. So when we study yoga, we always ask the question, okay, what is the difference between yoga and physical exercise? What is the difference between you sitting in Padmasana for 5 minutes to you go to the gym and lifting the weight for 5 minutes, right? So there actually we have movement, awareness, so that both of these things are synced in when you do yoga. But in exercise, physical exercise like jogging, that's a different thing. That's why you see a lot of people use the headphone while jogging, but we never do yoga while using a headphone, right? In very concurrent examples, okay? Right, and then we moved on to a couple of sutras, right? So we talked about the first sutra, which is Atha Yoganushāsanam. So I said Atha Yoganushāsanam. In Patanjali's point of view, some of the commentators have given. So he has mastered the Ayurveda and he has mastered the grammar, and now he is giving you how to master the mind, right? So that is one of the meanings. From your point of view, in very simple terms, we have going after Boga for a long time. Boga is something which is not yoga, right? So you have gone after so many things with your worldly pleasures, your worldly life and everything, and now it's time that you put a pause and then focus on yoga, right? So that's why we say Atha Yoganushāsanam. And also we mentioned about the word Atha. This is a we say it's an auspicious word where we used to, so in grammar, though there are so much of rules, right? So the grammarian knows it the best, right? So he has used a particular word to tell how auspicious it is, how important it is in your life right now, you starting your journey of yoga. Right? So that is the brief meaning of Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Then we say Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga will cease the vrittis in the mind. What are the vrittis? In simple terms, let's call it the movements or the thoughts, right? Thoughts only make movements in your mind, right? So the yoga, the aim of yoga is to basically cease the vrittis or the changes taking different forms, right? And then, so our mind is taking different forms, so we will try to, seize them and see how it is, right? So that is the aim of yoga. So with that, Patanjali, with 2 lines, with 5 words, right, he is basically finishing off the whole thing, right? It's done. Now it's time to do yoga, and yoga is this, right? So based on the level or the different stages of your life with your knowledge and how much sadhana you have done, some of you will not need to read from hereafter, right? But we will go, right? So that is very important, because the first chapter, it gives you an overview, second chapter tells you what you need to do, third chapter tells you what are the specific things that you can attain, and fourth chapter says, okay, after all, where we are going to stop, right? So that is the whole structure of Yoga Suthras of Patanjali. Then, third sutra, we said, Tada Drushtu Swarupe Avasthanam. Tada Drushtu Swarupe Avasthanam. When the movements of the mind are ceased, when the thoughts are zero, you find the true self, right? So I was just cracking a joke last time. So if any one of you know what that feeling is about, you don't need to attend here, right? So what is mind? Is there an entity or an organ called mind, or is it a continuous start, cease, start, cease, start, cease of thoughts? Right? So one thought comes, next thought comes, next thought comes, next thought comes, right? So when you see me today in the first time in the screen, I'm pretty sure, oh, he's wearing yellow today. Okay, oh, he has a background and he has this, that and the other. So many things, even without your knowledge, it keep on processing one after the other, after the other, after the other, right? So this is the nature of mind, right? So in certain religions, certain texts, they say mind is like a mad dog, right? Mind is a magician, right? And because sometimes you don't understand, even though you are processing so much of thoughts, right? So when these thoughts come zero, right? So basically then you are with your true self. You find your true self when these movements of the mind has come to zero, right? Good. So for the time being, just getting an understanding about this is sufficient. When we go on, when we break into different little segments, you will understand, okay, this is what he mentioned, this is what he mentioned, likewise, right? So that's fine. Then we moved on to the fourth sutra, Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. At other times, the self, the person's mind, take the form of the thought. So you have a thought. Best example is you get an angry feeling, right? So you see something with your eyes and you feel mad about it, right? For an example, let's say somebody in front of you, you want something to be arranged in a specific way, and you have explained it like 10 times. But for the 11th time, he or she come and arrange it in a different way. Even though you are looking at the screen right now, in the background, when you see that, you get mad. So when you get mad, you can see, I can observe your movements are faster. Your eyes and your face get wrinkles and all of it. All these things will happen, right? Remember when somebody cut you on the road, what happened to you? The hands start to work, words start to work, not the normal words, right? And the brake pedal will be pushed down, right? All these things will happen because when there is a thought, right? When something happens, so if it is not clear, when the thought comes, the mind becomes that thought, right? And start actioning. In certain, in Buddhist philosophy, we call this the chetana, the need to do the action, right? Right. Then we talked about, yeah, so those are actually the four sutras we talked about last time after getting a little bit of a background about Patanjali, right? So are we good? Are we clear? Right? Thumbs up. So I'll just go through the questions that we put it to the group. Let me see whether I have missed anything. So we talked about Patanjali, a background, and then we talked about what are the things he have mastered. And yeah, what is the yoga as described? Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. Second line, done, right? Cessation of the thoughts, right? The cessation of thoughts, when we say, it's not, the doing it is not as easy as we say, right? It's easy to say, I can use all the fancy words and tell, okay, no thoughts, stop the thoughts, delete the thoughts. All the current words I can use and say, this is it. But doing it is something you yourself have to do. That's an inside job, right? And then what is the simple meaning of vritti? Let's call it a thought for the moment, right? So these are the couple of things we discussed, right? So before we move on to the next sutras, I want to show a couple of things. So I want to just clear the background and the basics, right? So we have a couple of organs, right? We have 5 organs plus a mind. Let's call the mind also an organ right now, right? So we have ears, and we use the ears to hear the sound. Agreed? Right? And we have a skin. Let's come to the skin later. We have eyes. We use the eyes to see, right? So we have the vision. And then we have a nose. So we get the smell. This is an input organ, right? And we have a tongue, which is for the taste, right? And then we have mind. Okay, so mind will do all the processing part of it, right? So when you eat something, tongue only feels the taste. Any other part of the mouth doesn't feel the taste. So that's why we take tongue as the organ which feels the taste, right? Okay, are we clear with that? Are we okay? Good. Then you have something different here. Okay, so you have the input, right? How the input is happening, right? So there is an object. So I have a computer in front of me, right? I believe all of you have either computer, tablet, or your mobile phone in front of you. So there is an object, and you have the eye, and you need to have the mind, right? Then only you will get the vision. Even though you have an object, even though you have an eye, if you don't have a mind, if the mind is not functioning right now, you will not see. That's why a dead man don't see. Dead man also, in front of him, he has an object. He has an eye. A muscle eye is there, right? But the mind has left the body, right? Because of that, he don't see the vision. So 3 things need to be fulfilled in order for you to get a vision, right? On the same way, you have an object or somebody screaming next to you, right? And you have an ear, and then your mind is processing that, and that's why you hear the sound. That's why sometimes when you are walking, right, somebody is screaming with your name, maybe from a shop. You leave your mobile phone in the shop and you walk out, right? So your mind is operating something else. Some other thought is processing in your head. And this particular person, let's say the customer care, is shouting with your name. Sir, 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 madam, madam, you have left your mobile phone. But you don't hear it, right? Sound is there, ear is there, but you don't hear it. Why? because the mind is somewhere else right now. Right? Mind is, okay, where is my vehicle? Where is the bus? How to get a tuk? So that's what the mind is processing at that point. So you don't hear that person screaming. That's why sometimes after a couple of days somebody come and say, when you left this and went, I was screaming, you were in a different world. It's exactly correct. What that person's understanding is totally correct. Right? Right. Then, on the same way, you have an object, you have a beautiful mango in front of you, you have a nose, and your mind is processing, that's why you get the smell. Right? Tongue, again, you are eating something, not an object, food, let's say, right? You are eating something, tongue is there, the organ is there, and the mind is also there. Right? So then you get the taste. Right? Skin, again, there is an object, somebody is touching you, your skin is there, and then the mind need to process for you to feel the touch. Right? Then, in the sleep, eyes and all these organs are switched off, but the mind is still processing, so you get the dreams. Right? Imagine a situation, sleep, all the 5 organs are switched off. Right? Mind thought processing is also switched off. What would be that thought? What would be that, not thought, the state? That's what we mention in 3rd or 4th Sutra. When the thought process is switched off or ceased, you find your real self. Right? So finding this real self is our journey. Right? People call it different names. Okay? So in all these first 6 situations, thoughts, mind taking different forms. Right? But in the last step, no object, you are sleeping. Nose more or less closed, right? Eyes are closed, ears, you don't hear, right? Skin, so that's why sometimes when you sleep, even if a cockroach walk over you, you are fine, no problem. But when you are awake, when you see the cockroach, you see it and the mind is start gambling, and then immediately you start to scream. Action, scream. Right? So that happens. But when your dream, whatever happens, you don't know. Right? So, organ, no object, organ switched off, mind is switched off. What would be that thought? Right? Not thought, the state. Sorry, I'm continuously using a wrong term. What would be that state? The real self. Right? Right. Let's move on to the next one. So, what is the process? Right? So, those are input organs. So you have these input organs. So it's like just like a computer, right? You have a keyboard, mouse, all these are input devices. Likewise, your eyes, ears are also input grasping devices, right? What happens next? Then you come to, oh, that's nice, that's not nice, this is ugly, that's beautiful, it was very pleasant, it was unpleasant. Somebody says something, early morning, why you deliver an unpleasant message to me? Right? Or when you meet somebody early morning, you say, oh, that's what a pleasant surprise. What a pleasant surprise. Right? I'm pretty sure all of you have used those words. And certain things, you take something, you take an object, we call it, this is cheap, this is expensive, he is a very decent person, indecent person, cultural, not cultural, right, wrong, good, bad. All these things will come once you get the inputs. Mind will start its work, right? Mind will talk to the library and look at, okay, this thing, if it is this color, if it is this weight, that's cheap. This thing, this color, if it's heavy, if it has this look, this particular brand name, it's quality, expensive, right? That will be given by your mind through the process. Are we good? Right. Then output. So output is the drama. Now we gathered something, we processed it, now it's the action time. Now we are going to act. Right? So how are we going to act? So we have karmendriya, karma indriya. In our same body, we have indriyas which are performing action, right? Organs which perform action. So somebody come in front of you and talk to you and say something very harsh about you, right? You are a very proud person. You don't remember us anymore. What happens? So there was a voice, there was an ear, and the mind processed, right? And then it identified, okay, this person is criticizing me, right? Now what? Now then the mind gives the work to the karmendriya. Slap the person, or talk back, or slam the door and get out, right? So all these things you do with your speech, with your hands, with your feet, excretion, organ of excretion, and then organ of reproduction. So these are the 5 indriyas that we have in our body for action. Nothing more than that. Right? Are we good? Do we understand what we are trying to explain? Yeah. So again, input. These are the input devices, including the skin and the mind. Right? So there is an object, there is the organ, mind is processing, then you get the input. And once you get that input, based on your past memories and all the thoughts already you have identified, it will define this is good, this is bad, this is decent, this is not decent, rich, poor, expensive, cheap, all these things will come. Then what happens? Then the mind will say, yeah, fine, talk back, appreciate the person, right? Or don't appreciate the person, stay silent, don't say anything, right? I show my anger by staying silent, right? And then with the hands, right? Sometimes, so again the driving example, somebody cut in front of you, you see it, you hear it, right? Mind process it and give this thing. So speech, you will say, okay, this guy cut me off, I'm going to catch you, right? And the hands will immediately put the signal, turn the vehicle to the wrong side, and then you will start going. Feet will hit the accelerator, right? So sometimes excretion organs also function at that time, but mostly not. Okay, so are we good? Are we clear up to here? So from there, 5th sutra, right? So up to 4th sutra, are we clear? And are we? I hope you're clear about the organs and all, right? Okay, good. So the 5th sutra, what are we trying to say here? Vrittaya panchataya klishta aklishtaha. Vrittaya panchataya klishta aklishtaha. What is the meaning here? Right? Here we are basically trying to say all sorts of fluctuations in the mind, it can be pure, impure, are 5-fold. So now we are actually coming to a state where we are trying to understand thoughts are coming to our mind, right? And it's such a relief if you can understand these fluctuations in the mind into a couple of categories. And Patanjali is saying all these are 5-fold. All the thoughts processing in your mind can be put to 5 buckets. How good is that, right? It is not 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, right? It's 5. So it's a kind of a relief, right? So the 5th sutra, that's what it says. Vrittaya, panchataya, 5-fold, klishta can be klishta, aklishtaha, pure, impure, right? Klishta, aklishtaha, pure, impure, right? Good. Then let's see what are those things. Pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smratayaha. All the thoughts generating in your mind are 5-fold. What are those 5 folds? Pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smratayaha. Right? So I'll start with the first one. Pramana. Pramana is right perceptions. Right? Pramana is a right perception. So, for an example, I see a cat I see it's a cat. There is a dog, that's a dog. Right? So whatever it is, you conceive it, you take it in its own form. Right? We will talk about this language in the upcoming sutras, but for the moment, let's use the language to understand these things. Right? So pramana is a right perception. We don't have any problem about the right perception. Right? Viparyaya is the misconception, wrong conception, right? Wrong idea. So sometimes when we talk to somebody, and then after some time the conversation doesn't go in the way you intend. It's not that happy conversation anymore, right? Now it's like going to become a fight. So the first thing we say is, look here, you didn't understand what I said, right? You got it wrong, misconception. You got a misconception of what I said, right? So there is something, and then you don't get the right idea. You get a wrong idea, right? For an example, best thing is, in an organization, you are there, two people talking for a long time, and here and there, those two people look at you. So they look at you and then again keep talking. Look at you, again keep talking. Again look at you and then keep talking. What your mind is saying right now? Those people may be talking about me, right? Those people may be talking about me, right? And then you become uncomfortable. Then you become angry, right? Maybe they were talking about a building which they can see from the window behind you and say, that's a nice building, right? Or that's a new apartment complex. So they are going to put like 40, 80 or 100 stories there. So they keep on showing that and talking. But what you do, you are in the middle, you get the whole misconception, right? And then just getting angry and then worry, right? So that is another type of thought. One is getting the right thing. There is a clock, you call it a clock. This is a clock, that's it. There's a tree, it's a tree, that's it, right? And then other one is, there is a tree. Oh, this may be the tree that was planted by my neighbor, which he was talking yesterday night as I saw some nonsense, right? What happens is, here basically you didn't interact, you just saw, or let's say you interact, but then you keep on fantasizing about it, right? Then the next one is nidra, right? Pramana, viparya, vikalpa, nidra, smratayaha. Nidra, fourth one. This is what you call as the deep sleep state of emptiness, right? Now, when throughout Patanjali Yoga Sutra, when we say deep sleep, this is different to the yoga nidra which you are practicing while you are doing your yoga, right? In yoga nidra, you keep on listening to the instructor's instruction. Instructor is saying, lie down, observe the stomach going up and down with your belly, right? And then now observe your lungs filling with the air going out. All these things, even though you are lying down in Shavasana, we call it the lying down position, without keeping the body tight or anything, just hands out, legs out, keeping the head on the floor, just lying down, right? We call it Shavasana, the corpse pose, like a dead body you are, right? Dead body is not keeping like this, no? Dead body is like this, right? So, in Shavasana, when you do the Yoga Nidra, this is not it's not the same Nidra as this. There, you are fully listening and all the basically ears are functioning, right? And your mind is functioning, that is happening. But Nidra in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, with these 5 letters, Nidra is deep sleep. What is deep sleep? All the sense organs are switched off, right? Mind is not functioning. You are like properly slept like dead, right? I'm pretty sure most of y'all must have experiences at some point. Maybe when you are extremely tired, right? Sometimes you sleep, you don't get dreams, nothing. When you wake up, you ask, okay, where am I, and all this kind of thing, right? This is not through deliberation of a drug or anything, right? You yourself sleep and the mind chatter is also stopping, right? So then that's what the state of emptiness, right? So we have the right perceptions, we are getting the wrong perceptions about things, and then we have doubt, imaginations, the fantasizing part of it, and then we have the state of emptiness, nothing, right? And then smritayaha. What is smritayaha? Smrita is memory or remembering, right? So what is this? This is basically you are gathering or recollecting and building an image which happened in the past, right? So that's why when you go to sometimes counseling and all, they say, okay, forget about the past, right? Because past is not tangible, past you can't go back, right? And you can't action on that past, whatever that kind of visual that you are getting in your head, even though how beautifully, to what extent of details that you can go and rebuild that picture, right? So these are the 5 types of thoughts generating in your head. Right perceptions, wrong perceptions. Then vikalpa, conceptualize. You see something, you develop a concept. Now you develop a concept and you are going on your own world, right? And then you have the nidra, zero, empty, nothing, no thoughts, nothing, zero level. Then you have the smritayaha, which are the past memories, right? So memories are recollecting in your mind and developing a nice picture to you, which sometimes steal your sleep in the night, right? Right. Then moving on, are we clear with sutra number 6? Are we good? Great. Okay. Then we talk about 7th sutra, pratyaksha anumana agamaha pramanani, right? Pratyaksha anumana agamaha pramanani. What does this mean, right? So we talked about pure knowledge or the pure thoughts and the impure thoughts. Then we said those are 5-fold. So those 5 folds were what we discussed here: right perception or misconceptions, doubts, deep sleep, and memory. Now we talk about how we get the right knowledge, right? So where are we getting the right knowledge, right? So pratyaksha, direct perception. If there are Sinhala people here, pratyaksha in Sanskrit is the same meaning as Sinhala. Pratyaksha, we know in pratyaksha inma, this is this, right? So when you see something, if let's say I see a wall is a wall, that's it, right? So we all know what the wall is, how the wall is made out of. That's a wall, that's it, full stop. There's nothing more than that, right? Then inference is, it's like this. We say like this, it's something like this, right? So also actually when you say anumana, sometimes what it means is there is a smoke, right? So you know that there is a fire, right? So there is a saying also, if there is a smoke, there is a fire, right? If there is a hill, there is a slope as well, right? So likewise, so when you are climbing a hill, you know, oh, okay, a slope will be coming. Or when you see some smoke in the long distance, you know, okay, there has to be some fire, right? So that is anumana, right? Either you perceive it directly or you don't perceive it directly, but you know based on the characteristics, okay, it should be this, like that, right? And then agamaha, right? What is agamaha? So these are sacred texts, spiritual texts. So why we call something as sacred or a spiritual text? Because it is being compiled by a person or a group of people who are recognized as knowledgeable people who have experienced, right? So you have Vedas, right? So Vedas are sacred spiritual texts, let's say, right? You have Bhagavad Gita, you have certain scriptures in Buddhism, in whatever the Bible, right? All these things are basically sacred or spiritual texts, right? So you get the knowledge from those, right? For an example, certain things in Vedas, whatever written, still the science can't understand what it is, but we strongly believe what it is. Certain things they have already developed and proved, but the science is not developed yet enough to prove the other things which are written in Vedas. In Buddhism, they talk about the tiniest object, right? And the tiniest object is not the atom. It is there's something even different to that, right? It's not the atom. So what we say is, we still believe, yes, that is it. Whatever in that Buddhism, you call it a Shuddhashtakaya, right? If there is a Shuddhashtakaya, that's that. And science is talking about something atom, yeah. So science has not developed yet enough to prove this, right? You don't have to prove everything, right? So right knowledge you are gathering from agamaha, from spiritual sacred texts. Pramanani is proof or factual data. We always like to see the factual data, no? So in a organizational context, in a corporate context, so always sometimes when you give the opinion, you go to a meeting and say, according to my opinion, I believe this market is a bigger market, and I don't think our organization have the strength enough to go and pitch. Then the boss get up from the seat and say, hey, look here, I don't care about your opinion, right? Give me the facts, right? So then the person will go basically looking after facts, and then they will say, this is the number of people in the market, these were the sales, and the sales is segmented to different things. So those are actually factual. Then a person would be convinced enough, right? So we have direct perceptions, inference. If it is like this, then there has to be something like this, right? And then agamaha, from sacred or spiritual texts, right? And then pramanani, or the proof or factual information is there. Are we good? This is where the right knowledge is coming from, right? Great. Then moving on, then we are coming viparyaya, right? Viparyaya mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtham. Viparyaya mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtham, right? Viparyaya, illusory knowledge or illusory or erroneous knowledge, wrong knowledge due to non-fact or non-real. Best example I can say here is the mirage, right? Mirage, or in Sinhala we call this miringuwa, right? So we say viparyasaya yanu pavatina de venat aakarayakata dakimen athivane mithya jnanayai. For an example, we'll go to a desert in a couple of seconds, right? But when you're walking on the road, or when you are driving in a long road that you can see, right? Sometimes you see the road is going up and down like this, right? Because it's called a mirage, right? Because the reality is, at that particular point, the road is really hot because of the sun, and the air around it is hot. So there is a weakness in your eye, right, which see the road as changing, right? So for the viparyaya or the mithya or illusory or erroneous knowledge, there are a couple of things. Number one is, you see something differently, and for you to see something differently, there is a limitation in your eye, right, where you can't capture that particular thing as it is, as the right way. Right? Otherwise we will not see this mirage. Right? So there are like enough and more stories. They say, okay, so when these people were going in the desert, so somebody saw some water, and then the person was running, but they never found water. Right? It's because a desert is a really hot place. Right? So what you see is actually water-like image which is being captured in your eye. In reality, it may not be appearing like that. But you have a limitation in your eye that your eye capture it like water. Right? So you get the erroneous or illusory knowledge. We call it mithya jnanam, because of non-fact. There are no facts, and certain things are not real. For an example, somebody is gossiping about someone with you. You believe it. Right? Maybe that other person even doesn't know about this other person. Right? So sometimes you talk about a teledrama. Right? So you talk about a teledrama. First thing is that teledrama itself is not real. Right? But you have taken it as so real. You have given a value to that in your mind, and now you are even predicting what will happen next. Right? One of the other example is the political landscape. Whatever people talk, so something happened on the road, then you relate it to something, and then arrive at a conclusion. Do you have facts? No. Right? You don't have facts, and whatever you may be thinking is not real. Right? So illusory knowledge coming due to erroneous, non-real or non-availability of facts. You don't have facts and it's not real. Right? So the best thing is, when a worrying factor comes to your head, always you go on thinking about all the negative scenarios which can happen. Right? What if this person act like this? What if this person tell this? What if that? What if this? All these things are basically, none of these things are provided with facts. Right? Sometimes whenever you are thinking about a person, the person may be dead. Right? But you are still thinking. So these are thoughts running in your head continuously. So this is a wrong knowledge. This is how the wrong knowledge is coming and processing inside your head. Right? Are we good? Great. So we move on to the 9th sutra. Right? So let's see what it says. Right. So this is a very interesting sutra. Right? So this says, Sabda jnananupati vastu shunyo vikalpaha. Right? Sabda jnananupati. Shabda jnananupati. Shabda jnananupati vastu shunyo vikalpaha. One of the most beautiful sutras given by Patanjali. The language can convey what does not exist as exist. Right? I was reading in a Sinhala book. Right? So in Sinhala book, sometimes they say Vanda Gahaniyage Puta. Vanda Gahaniya is the woman who can't carry children. Right? Puta is the child. And this person's puta. Now how can, if a person can't bear a child, how can you tag that person as this lady's child? Right? So language is such a thing that you can express something does not exist as existing. Right? And also when you take certain words like pure joy, pure bliss, right? All these things, if I ask from 10 people, what's your understanding about pure bliss? What does it sound like? Right? And so they will have different meanings. So, but let's go to like very simple meaning, right? So they say sometimes when you show a car, right? You show a car and say that is a cart. In Sinhala, this is used, right? So we say there's a car, but you call it a cart. It's not a cart, it's a car. By fact, it's a car, right? So likewise, those are very minute level examples. But when it comes to everyday life, lot of words that you are using, because of the language, you make something not existing real. Unreal is seen as real, right? So yeah, another one, a person will ask, so is there a person after death? Right? Is there a person after death? Person dies. After death, meaning at the point of death, the person is dead. Then why are you asking what sort of a person you want to become after death? Then you will say, okay, I want to become a businessman, not like this, I will do like this, and all these are like illusory, crazy things that you keep on talking. It is because of the language. Imagine, as humans, we did not have a language to speak. Let's say as humans, we did not know that we can use this mouth to talk such a thing. Right? Then what happens? So then there is no language. But having a language, we have so much of chit chat going on. Right? So language can convey what does not exist as exist. Right? It's not a bad thing about the language. It's a characteristic, or it's a way how people use the language. Now Patanjali, they say sometimes he was born, or his time was between 400 BC to 4000 BC. Right? Even at that point, he was able to write this down, because even at that point, people use the language to show what does not exist as exist. One of the very simple examples that I can give you is commercial advertisements sometimes. Right? With an advertisement, you show so much of things which does not exist as exist. I'm not criticizing anything, and I'm not attached to any of those things, but I'm just giving you as an example. Right? So language, sometimes it's very dangerous, because it can convey something does not exist as existing. Right? Are we good with that? Do we agree? Great. Then let's see what we have. So okay, so I will basically stop from here with the last sutra for the day. So we say abhava pratyaya alambana vritti nidra. Abhava pratyaya alambana vrittir nidra. Abhava pratyaya alambana vrittir nidra. Right? Don't worry about pronouncing these, or memorizing these, because even if you recite it every day in and out, if you don't know the meaning, it might not make any sense. Right? It's just like you recite this every day. After 100 days you will get Samadhi, and now that is a way how you exploit the language to show something not real as real. Right? So dreamless sleep, that we understood as nidra. Right? So what is nidra? I have given a formula here. Shavasana, senses all switched off, zero thoughts, equivalent to nidra. Right? So dreamless sleep is an inert state of consciousness in which the sense of existence not felt. Right? So this is a sutra we should again come back in 3rd chapter and try to discuss. Right? So a dreamless sleep is a state of consciousness, state of mind in which the sense of existence is not there. Right? Existence itself is not felt. Right? So we will talk about this when we talk about this dharana, dhyana, samadhi part of it in the 3rd chapter. But for the time being, somebody is lying down, senses switched off, zero thoughts. Always look, now today when you go to sleep, okay, you come to Shavasana, listen, not Shavasana, whatever the sleeping position that you have, and then you have your senses switched off, right? And then when you wake up in the morning, if you feel so tired because of the dreams, it was not nidra. Your mind was working. So your mind has worked 24 hours continuously on that day. Right? So that understanding at this sutra is sufficient. Right? And then, so I'm not going to take, so basically next week we will be talking about these two words, abhyasa and vairagya. Extremely important two words in your life. Once you learn it, from that day till you die, these two words are extremely important. Once you learn these two words, you can't unlearn. Even if you try to unlearn now, then you know, okay, you are trying to cheat yourself. Right? So, from that we will stop the discussion for today. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.